Hi, this is Dr. Kimberley Linert, author of Visualizing Happiness in Every Area of Your Life and host of this podcast, Incredible Life Creator. And today I have with me Esther Sarlo. Hey, Esther.
Hey, Dr. Kimberly. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Yes, we are excited to have you. And just so people know you, I'm going to read your short bio. So, Esther Sarlo and her team have created Mind Myself as a response to a profound lack of centralized access to credible health information from complementary, holistic, and integrative perspectives. A trusted source for information and connection to vetted, experienced, and outstanding practitioners, Mind Myself's prime directive is to help you become your own best health advocate. She wants you to feel safe, seen, heard, and supported as you navigate your health journey. As the cornerstone of this game changing project, Esther is the catalyst for creating this beautiful space where healing, connections, and collaborations can emerge. As a voice for the body's role in healing and wholeness in the universe, Esther is an entrepreneur, facilitator, speaker, and writer who is passionately committed to making it easier for you to live and speak your most authentic life. So I know that's what you're doing now, Esther, but you also have a journey and you've done all sorts of things. So we
Hmm.
would love to hear your story.
Okay. Well, it's a big one, so I won't do all the details, but I grew up with the idea of complementary health embedded in my psyche without really knowing it. But there were a lot of things that went on in between. And I've been a youth and family worker. I worked with teenagers and kids that were at risk. And I'm originally from Ontario, Canada, but now I live in British Columbia, Canada. And so it's been this long journey. I did that with youth for about 20 years in various different circumstances. And then I got into the business world and I did things like event management and corporate writing. I still do some of that. And I've been a singer songwriter and I've been a salesperson. So I've done many, many different things. And I love emceeing in different events. That's always very fun. And now I have this website called Mind Myself. And I got here kind of serendipitously and kind of by accident. About 20 years ago, I had 10 inches of blood clot in my arm, and Western medicine saved my life. They took me into surgery. There's a whole long story around that, which happy to share at another time. But when I said, why did this happen and how can I prevent it from happening in the future? They had no answers for me. All they could say were things I was already doing. Eat healthy organic food. Well, they didn't say organic, but I do. Eat healthy organic food, drink lots of water, exercise, don't eat lots of sugar, don't be on the birth control pill, don't smoke, and don't drink alcohol. So all of that was already how I lived my life. And then they said, or you could be on these blood thinners for the rest of your life. But it's kind of dangerous because if you have no clotting ability in your blood, you could die from stubbing your toe. And I'm like, uh, probably not. So I stayed on that for about the first 6 months. And then after I went on my own journey, I talked to my doctor and she said, yeah, I don't recommend that you stay on it either. So I went on this long journey of discovery around complementary medicine or holistic medicine. And it was trial and error. And people would recommend something, so then I'd try it. But it was also a costly endeavor. And there was no single trusted source for this information. There's WebMD from the Western medicine perspective, and they include some information about holistic health, but it's usually couched in the disclaimers of, well, there haven't been studies and we don't really know about it. And you may or may not want to trust this or explore it, but you should definitely go the Western medicine route. So I knowing that, and then being on my journey of hunt and peck and trial and error and spending lots of money and some things working and some things not, about 4 years ago and a bit, I two practitioners came to me and said, "Will you interview us? We need some content for our website." And one was a personal trainer and a nutritionist, and one was a doctor of traditional Chinese medicine. And I went, "Sure, I love interviewing people. It's one of my woohoo passions in life." And we got to talking, and it just occurred to me, I really need to do this. So I feel like it's a calling. I feel like it's something that the world needs. In particular, my passions are, it's for everybody, but my passions are to help women who are 40s and up, 40 to 55 plus, because that's when our bodies are most changing. And it's the time of life when we need the most support. We have lots of questions. And it's a time when often women are dismissed, forgotten, and ignored and swept under the carpet. And I don't think that's good enough. So that's kind of the short version of how I got to where I am.
And that makes so much sense because I was, I'm an eye doctor, as most people know. And I had a patient the other day, and she said, I want to tell you about this thing I'm going through. She said, but I'm going to educate you. She said, because they don't do enough um, studies for women and their health. And she said, people just don't know. And I said, you're right. And I've heard people say that over and over again. It's like a lot of the studies are done on men, and they have been for years, but they
Yeah.
haven't been done on women. And there's reasons for that, especially if women in childbearing age, they don't want to be experimenting with them on certain drugs and things like that. But yeah, there needs to be attention put to women's health for sure.
Absolutely. And I want to add to that. Perhaps they were thinking in terms of childbearing years and what were the chemicals and all of that. How would that impact these women? But also, a fact that I came across was that they didn't want to do the studies on women of childbearing years because their menstruation cycles and their hormones would interfere with the results of the studies. Well, hello, that's how it works. You have to include that in there. So when I heard that at first time, I just went, really? Really? That's prevented you from studying women? And there are ways that we don't have to hurt women or men to study, but that's a whole other conversation.
Exactly. Yes. And the thing is, our bodies are always changing. We have seasons of
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
And, we do have that young childbearing age. And then we have, the age where, things are changing pre, post, in the middle menopause. And,
Mm-hmm.
and I know men have something similar. They just don't call it that.
Yes. They call it andropause or manopause is what I've heard it affectionately referred to in the last few years. Yes.
So, yeah. So, how do we make sure that things are being studied and we can find answers to these things?
Well, I can't tell you that I have the solution or the answer for that, Dr. Kimberly, but what I'm hoping is that the more people, especially women, who stand up for themselves and, as I say in our Mind Myself world, become their own best health advocates, the more we advocate for ourselves, the more we advocate for women, the more we advocate for studies, the more we advocate for what we want and what we need, the larger the voices, the louder the voices, the more of the voices that we have. And when we put our monies where our mouth is and say yes, and we take our money from where we don't want things to be and say, I'm not going to spend money on that until you act, you don't have my money. And that's what's going to speak. That's what I believe.
I have to agree with that. That is how things get done.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a lot of things do come down to money and where we put it.
Yes. And we have a lot more power than we think. Let money aside, we have a lot more power than we think when we begin expressing and standing in what we want and what we know and what we're learning. We don't have to know everything to act and to stand in our power.
So let's just start from the beginning. Let's say I'm going to make an example. We have a woman, she's 45 years old. She's always just gone to her regular Western medicine doctor her whole life. She's
Mhm.
having fatigue. She's having other things happening in her body. And she goes to the doctor, and he just basically says, you're okay. That's just how old you are. That's why that's happening.
Mhm.
She would like answers, but she has never uh looked into or even knows where to start as far as
Mhm.
where does she start out being her own advocate?
Okay, so I don't have all the answers. I'm not a medical professional like you are. I can't say, oh, you must do this. What I can recommend is go visit the free website Mind Myself and start looking around. There are blogs, there are podcasts. We've had events with every event that we've had is with three different practitioners talking about subjects like, and since you brought this example up, what the hormone is happening to me. And we did a 2-part series. It's under events and it's all there. And there are three phenomenal practitioners talking about the beginnings of the hormones cycle and what you can do and how to talk to your doctor. There are blogs about how to become your own best advocate and what does that actually mean. There are healthcare approaches. Do you know what traditional Chinese medicine is? Do you know what Ayurvedic medicine is? Have you ever heard of somatic experiencing? Have you heard of different forms of massage, or what is cranial sacral? That those last few are not necessarily anything to do with hormones. And there are books. We have book recommendations, and there are other places where you can go just in Mind Myself. Trusted sources where Mindy Pell says, fast like a girl. There are just so many different resources. And if you go to Mind Myself and just start hunting around and asking about hormones and cycles, and I've done a series of podcasts with Dr. Victoria Mondlock. She's in the States as well, in Milwaukee. And we talk about hormones. So there's just a wealth of information. And I'm hoping that this will become women's trusted source where they go to start and then connect with different practitioners. Try them out, see what their perspectives are, see what advice they might have. Get one perspective, get two, get three.
Yeah, that is wonderful. And actually, if people look before this podcast or a few back, I did interview Dr. Monlock. So if you want
Oh,
to know about
great.
hormones, go to that podcast. She talks a lot about hormones.
Yes.
And she
The
has
four
new book that
pillars.
just came out too, where she has a
Yes.
book club. So that would be great. So just so people know, because you've been saying it over and over, but I don't think people know it's spelled differently. How,
Yes.
spell out the website Mind Myself.
Absolutely. It's MYMD. Mind MYMD myself.
Okay, so yeah, so if you're sitting there looking for it while you're listening, it's like that's why you couldn't find it.
Yes.
It's MYND myself.
Exactly. And I'll just explain a little bit about how we came to that name. If the DNA of Mind Myself is helping you become your own best health advocate, and we're talking about it as mind, MY, my, me, my, and it's a direct address website from us to you. And you start thinking about it, and I'm minding myself, and I'm taking responsibility, and I'm putting myself out there, and I'm empowering myself. Mind Myself just felt like such an encouraging and empowering name.
Cool. So, um, when you were looking for that new pathway, like when you had that health issue, I think a lot of people get in that situation where, they something has to happen, a heart attack, a stroke, a something, and all of a sudden you're searching. Um, this is kind of a different question, but how did you encourage yourself emotionally as you're going through those difficult issues?
Oh, that's so important. Uh, it's been a long journey, and sometimes I still encourage myself, but and some days are darker than others. I'm still on a journey. I actually love my life now, and I feel stronger than ever, and I feel like I'm on the right path. I still don't have some of the old answers, but I'm moving in such a powerful direction. I think it was I think it was my fierce determination to live a good life. And I kept coming back to that. And also, if I might say, to find and live into my magnificence. And I believe each one of us is magnificent. I believe each one of us has a story to tell. Each one of us has been through transformations. Each one of us has been through hard times and wonderful times and everything in between. And to keep going and say, I want to live a good life. I am living a good life. I want to live a good life. I'm going to keep taking one step in front of the other. And I wasn't always so joyful. There were times when I'm sure now looking back that I had mild grade depression for years, and I felt lonely and alone. And I don't know, there was some inner spark that just made me take the next step and go, okay, I'll read a book. I'll go talk to somebody. I will. Now there's a resource. If Mind Myself was there, I would have looked at it. But there's so much available to us. I think it's just choice. I'm worth it. And our tagline for Mind Myself is because you matter. And if every woman and every man and every person of whatever gender they choose says, I matter, then the next step becomes the next step, whatever that is. I matter. That's what I would encourage people to say. I matter and believe it.
Mhm. I love that. Thank you.
Mm.
And then there's some times when people have morning routines or some habits they do every day. Some people pray, some people journals, some people go for a walk. Is there certain things that you do every day or almost every day that just keeps you centered, keep you going in the right direction?
Well, I'm learning to meditate. I'm 60 at this moment, and that's been a journey to come to. And I believe strongly in meditation, and I'm learning how to be disciplined to do that more regularly. And I know I have one of my mentors and friends says just 10 minutes a day can change your life. So I'm working on incorporating that all the time into my life as much as I can. Another thing that I love to do is yoga. And there are lots and lots of free options online. You can go to a class if you like that, but I love to incorporate yoga. And she doesn't pay me, but I love yoga with Adrienne and her dog Benji. And everybody, she's got 13 million followers now, and I just love it. You can find a short one, a long one, a breathing one, a yin yoga, or a really intense one. So I love that. The other thing I do every day is I nourish my body with fabulous nutrients. My beloved Bill and I, we love to cook, and we get our food from as clean sources as possible. We find farms in our local areas and we buy from them as much as possible. And we cook and eat healthy organic food. So you say what routines? That is key. We make our food a priority because I believe optimal health begins with food and clean water. If we don't have that as our foundation, then I don't know, the rest is just not going to come along the way we do. I also, the other thing that I do every day now, and I've only discovered this in the last year and a half, is I have come across a phototherapy technology, and we wear these little patches, and that totally is changing my life. So those are some of the things that I do. I drink water, I move, I determine what I'm going to do for the day, and I come to it with gratitude. That's another important thing.
And I'm just wondering, what are some of your favorite dishes to cook? Yeah.
Oh, my favorite thing of all, and probably some of you don't believe me, but it's absolutely true. I'm known as the salad queen. I love salads. And every lunchtime, whenever possible, I had this huge bowl of salad with as many vegetables as I can put in it that are relevant to salads. And that's my favorite. But I don't know if I have a favorite. I love eating vegetables, green vegetables and cauliflower and sometimes the yams and sweet potatoes and just colorful things. We had some beautiful meals over the holidays, and I don't know if I used to be Italian in lasagna, but I'm steering away from dairy and gluten. So, my priorities have shifted. So I don't even know, but I do know I love to make sauces and I love to cook with my nose, as in I smell things and I can tell what's going to go with what. And that's one of the ways that I cook.
Well, so I have a question for you because I have trouble with this myself. I like salads, but I have a hard time finding a salad dressing that I like.
Oh, well, I can't speak for you, but what I love to do is get some infused olive oils. There are many places that have olive oils that you can choose different infused versions from. There's a blood orange infused olive oil. There are some basil or other herb infused olive oils. If you start with that, I just like sometimes just oil and vinegar or oil and lemon juice. That's me. Another one that and then they have raspberry vinegar and cranberry pear vinegar and all, like, so many different, grapefruit vinegar. And so if you put those two different an infused oil and a beautiful vinegar, that can work wonders. And then you just make it up each time. There are other recipes that you can have nut-based dressings if you have a good blender like a Vitamix, and you can put some nuts like pine seeds or macadamia nuts or cashews or pecans or some mixed nuts or almonds. And that's your base. And you just put some garlic powder, onion powder, a little bit of lemon juice, and whatever other spices you like, a little bit of salt, maybe some olive oil as well. And that it becomes like a Caesar dressing. And that can stay in the fridge for days at a time. And I love having that on there. I sometimes will put a little bit of dulse or some other seaweed in it too, just for that little pop of flavor. So if you want that recipe after, I don't really have it. It's in my head, but I'm happy to share it with you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. That sounds great because that's one of the things that keeps me from eating salad. I don't want to eat
Oh,
it plain, but I go to the section with the salad dressings and
oh,
I cannot tell you the number of times I've thrown away salad dressing bottles. So
yeah. Many salad dressings that are prepared on the shelves aren't great. There are a couple of brands that are okay, but I still like making my own. It's way better.
that sounds wonderful. So, what do you do to keep yourself going? Like, do you have certain hobbies you do or certain things like how do you balance, okay, this is my work and this is my mission, but then where's the time for me? How do you balance that? What kind of things do you love doing?
Mm. Well, that's a key, especially because Mind Myself is really only 4 years old, 2 years to make it, and two and a bit years live now. And it's been a challenge to because there's so much to do all the time, and it's a very, very small team that I work with, so there's a lot to do. I have to be really intentional, and sometimes I write my intentions out, and but I have to determine and choose. And even just this new year, I'm shifting some of the focus on what I'm doing, and I'm prioritizing yoga. For the last year or so, it's been really hard because I also am working with that phototherapy business too, so there's a lot on the plate. I also teach public speaking, and we were having some workshops and doing some things like that. And I have the Mind Myself podcast, Conversations with E, as well. So there was a lot. So I have to be really intentional. I have to hold my choice in front of me at all times and say, yes, I need to make time for this. So I also am very blessed with my partner. He's very supportive. So sometimes if I don't have time to cook, he'll cook, and he's a great cook. So we trade off in that. But making time to drink water, making time to move, making time to do yoga, making time to eat properly. Those are the four things. And also then on weekends, it might sound silly, but taking time, especially now that we can, invite people over and have a dinner and maybe play some games and laugh, laughter. It's so important. And we make time to kibitz with each other and laugh. Even when things are hard, we find ways to laugh. So those are some of the things that I do. How I just intend and I fiercely hold on to that. Oh, and the other thing is connections, deep connections, not just level one, although those can be good too, but really deep connections where we talk about things that matter. I love that. And so I always want to include that in my life too. And I intend. And sometimes I just have to put it in my calendar. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this at this time. And it's non-negotiable. That's really important.
That was great. Yeah. So, are you one of those people that plans like way ahead, or you're just kind of like,
Sometimes, but I can be very flexible with spontaneity too.
yeah,
So I do like to have a plan because in that way, then I can accommodate those things that I want to do. But there's room in life for travel and spontaneity too.
that is wonderful. Well, if people wanted to find you, you said your website, is that the best place? Or at this point, I wanted you to tell people what services you have, websites, books, whatever you want to advertise.
Okay. Well, ironically, Dr. Kimberly, today was a launch of my very first book, and we've reached international bestseller status in 5 categories. And I'm not even sure what the categories are, but I'm part of a collaborative book project. And my partner, Bill, also has a chapter in it. So I talk about the origins of the whole blood clot story, how that happened, and how I came to Mind Myself and created it. And so that's very exciting because that was today earlier. We had our Zoom launch party, and it was people from Canada and the United States and somebody from the UK. So you're welcome to buy that book if you like and want to read the story. It's called Epic Transformations. You can buy it on Amazon. I think it's on Goodreads as well. And so that's one thing. The other thing is the Mind Myself website, and it is free. It's my service. I feel like it's a calling to continue this project. And I would love to find more practitioners who would get on board and say, yeah, I want to be of service to the world. And their services aren't free. You have to pay for when you book an appointment with a practitioner, of course. So, but we have on the website, because that's the big thing that I'm talking about, is there's 70 different healthcare approaches outlined, 265 health issues outlined. We've done 16 live events with practitioners in the last year, and they're all there and available on recordings, innumerable blogs. So if you have any questions at all about complementary or holistic or integrative health, please go visit the website. We, of course, are on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. But my primary goal with all of those is to get people to come to the website because that's where the magic happens. And then the other thing, if you're interested in that phototherapy technology, I am so passionate about it because I'm watching people's lives transform. Wound healing, brain fog diminishing, more energy, more vitality, better skin and hair, just strength and stamina, just so many things. And that's more of a personal thing. I'm not even going to say the name of it because then people just go look at it. Just if you want to know those things and you want to experience those things in your life, you're welcome to talk to me at any time. And I think you're going to post in the notes for this my contact information. So you can reach out to me by email, by phone number, or you can reach me through the website.
Hey, wonderful. So now I have a personal question for you.
Okay.
What gives you the most happiness and fulfillment in your life at this point?
I think all the things we've been talking about. Honestly, I'm so enjoying my life. And when people say, "Oh," because I'll be turning 61, and what's today? Oh, a month from today, actually. And people say, "Well, what do you do?" And I explain it, and I love my life. I like all the things that I'm doing, and the more intentional I get, and the more committed I am to doing those things that I love, the more I love my life. I love my partner too. I'm so blessed to have a beautiful partner who collaborates with me. We work together on lots of different projects that I haven't even talked about, but we do public speaking together. He used to speak all over the world. And so I've learned a lot from him, and we hang out a lot. So I love spending time with him. I love serving people. I love these conversations. I love travel and getting into the nitty gritty of different places and seeing how other people in the world do things and the vibe of other places. I had the privilege of going to Dallas, Hawaii, and New York in the last 4 months. And wow, every place is so different and unique. So I love hearing stories and reveling in that too. So what do I love about? I love so much about my life. I could talk for hours.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today and for sharing all your lovely things about your life and about your mission. I really appreciate it.
Mhm. You're welcome. And could I leave everyone with a quote?
Yes, you may. And I have one more
Okay.
question after that, by the way.
Oh,
But
do you want to ask the
no,
question or
go
do you
ahead
want
and
the
tell me
quote?
the
Okay.
quote.
So Susan Paulus Schutz says, "This life is yours. Take the power to choose what you want to do and do it well. Take the power to love what you want in life and love it honestly. Take the power to walk in the forest and be part of nature. Take the power to control your own life, no matter no one else can do it for you. Take the power to make your life happy." And it really is, we get to choose. And there are certain things that happen to us that are out of our control, beyond our control, but we can change how we respond to those things. And we get to have so much more choice than we might have thought.
I love that. Well, thank you. So here's
Mhm.
the last question. You might have kind of answered it already, but what is your best advice on living an incredible, amazing life?
I would say remember always that you matter, that you are important, that you are significant. Your thoughts and your feelings matter. And here's a key, and you might have to think about this for a bit. I know I do. You are the thinker of your thoughts and the feeler of your feelings. You are not captive to those thoughts and those feelings. You can observe and you can make choices around those, but you have choices. And remember, you matter.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Kimberly.
We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you.